And that's pretty good timing. Scott Peterson sends me a story every week. He's fabulously prolific, and he really researches these things. What a great amount of work he does. Let me just make sure that I don't get to the end of that and not be able to know where to go from there. Put a couple of arrows on that, and that solves that. So, Losers is the title of this piece, the second in a trilogy on this particular subject. Scott M. Peterson writes, tattoo typos are the first signs of a loser. Not just on their skin, mind you, but on the internet for the whole world to see, like the fellow who wanted to memorialize Bob Marley with a tattoo of, Jimi Hendrix on his arm, and then published it on his Facebook page. Oops. Then we have the case of a wannabe gangbanger who considered himself to be awesome, so he had the word awesome emblazoned on his back, but spelled it wrong. Once again, it appeared on his Facebook page. Oh, darn. There's an entire gallery of Facebook photo fails where you can see a panoply of losers. It's online, of course. The names have been omitted to protect the stupid, but you can still get the picture. Then there's the Hall of Fame for Facebook status updates, where people get Facebook mixed up with Google, like Gracie, who typed "vagina smells funny" on her Facebook page and then couldn't take it down. Oh, no harm done if you do that as a nobody in the big city, but what if that happens when you're living in a small town and become an overnight celebrity? What then? Mental health professionals weighed in on that question back in 2014. According to psychologist Douglas T. Kenrick, there are 7 ways that Facebook can be bad for you, no matter where you live. One of them is sharing information that might affect your employment opportunities. Confusing Bob Marley with Jimi Hendrix on a permanent body image doesn't bode well for hiring these days, especially when you put a photo of it on the internet. County records show that Donald Lynn Peeler was born on December 16, 1968. By all accounts, he's been a good citizen, winding up in the newspaper only a few times, once for getting married to a 16-year-old named Jimmy Hopkins in 1988, another for a traffic accident near Philo earlier that year that wasn't his fault, and then to mourn his kid brother Greg, who drowned picking abalone in 2004. His mom is Judy Valadao of Fort Bragg, who's a thoughtful individual. It seems that Don's a pretty nice guy, too, at least until he got tangled up with a fast buck artist named Ed Komsky. Komsky saw a huge opportunity in the California real estate market through an aging fraternal order, the California State Grange. As old-time Grange members died off, their gathering places became vulnerable to certain pressures, including the one at Inglenook, just north of Fort Bragg. So in 2014, Komsky started an organization with the exact same name and then began putting the squeeze on. Membership dues were the first line of attack. Fort Bragg Grange number 672. Remember that number, 672, was in arrears for 4 years' worth. The membership at the time was around 100 people. So at $35 a pop, Komsky was looking to collect around $15,000 for his brand new enterprise, in exchange for nothing more than a large framed certificate showing just that, which is something that Fort Bragg Grange number 672 already had. That wasn't adequate, according to Komsky. They needed a new one, and he needed the $15,000. If they didn't come up with it, he'd take their property away and put a new man in charge. Somebody really scary. Komsky's new Grange wasn't going very well. It applied to the state under provisions that it'd be a nonprofit that could hold assets. That was the whole point. But on August 25, 2015, the state balked at his application, gave him a for-profit permit that couldn't hold assets, putting the kibosh on his little scheme. The only thing left to do was pretend it never happened and run the old people off that property. That'd take 2 scary people. Maria Rose Weaver was born on January 26, 1970. She and Mr. Peeler have been together for a little over 6 years. Marilla, possibly, works for an eye doctor in Fort Bragg named Kyle Smith. She got married at age 30 to Daniel Freitas of Fort Bragg on October 27, 2000. Freitas filed for divorce against Weaver on May 18, 2011, 3 weeks after she started a relationship with Peeler. Marilla or Maria, I think I'm going to go with Maria, has held the title of Worthy Matron for the Order of the Eastern Star in Mendocino since 2010. She also keeps the records there. However, the IRS hasn't got any filings from her since, say 2010. And the fact that she could sit on records that long must have interested Komsky, because he was sitting on the notice from the state that his little operation wasn't a nonprofit at all. Eastern Star is a branch of the Masonic Order, where everything is communicated word of mouth, naturally. That suited Komsky just fine, so that's how he recruited Don and Maria Peeler to become the new officers of Fort Bragg Grange number 672. Let me repeat that. Number 672. What was the number that he gave earlier? It doesn't sound like it's the same number. No, it's 672. That's right. But first he needed them to force their way into the Fort Bragg Grange Hall and lock the others out. They did just that on March 27, 2017, prompting the old-timers to break in and force the Peelers out. That's when things got scary. On June 22, 2017, Maria ran a scathing editorial in the local papers, calling the folks who owned the hall every name in the book and insisting repeatedly that Fort Bragg Grange number 672 was here to stay, but under hubby's gavel. A quick look at his Facebook page showed what they were up against. The Peelers flew a Confederate flag from their front porch. Maria posed with an assault rifle in her pajamas. They sported husband and wife Trump T-shirts. And best of all, Don had a photo of himself holding the charter to the Fort Bragg Grange. What was that number again? Fortunately, Maria took that photo in high resolution, so you actually read the darn thing, including the date of organization, which is March 29, 2017, 2 days after the Peelers broke into Fort Bragg Grange number 672, which leaves them both twisting in the wind for the break-in. You can also read the number on that new charter. It's 572, not 672. Translation, the Peelers have nothing to show for their loyalty to Mr. Komsky, and now they've got dues to pay on top of it. Obviously, the Peelers had no idea they'd just been burned. Don, the new president, didn't bother reading the silly thing, and Maria, who works for an eye doctor, didn't notice the gigantic switcheroo, and photos of the huge framed certificate were posted to both of their Facebook pages. At least they were. I spotted the swindle July 7, 2017 on Don's Facebook page along with all the scary photos. Then, figuring he'd be taking them down soon, I made copies of the really choice ones, after which I sent him an email with a link to the one of him holding the huge certificate, not to his Facebook page, but to my Google Drive page. Mr. Peeler never responded to that email, but I'm pretty sure he got it. Why? Within minutes, all of the scary photos had been taken down, including the one of Don holding the giant framed certificate with the wrong chapter number on it. So just for fun, I emailed him a low-resolution sampler of the other photos I'd copied to see if they might scare him. Komsky got scared a while ago. His Facebook page, once packed with intimidating photos, bears only one today. Appropriately, it's a snapshot of a spent volcano. All the heavy lifting is done. At the California State Grange website, the latest news posted there is that of a lawsuit against another group of senior citizens in Bennett Valley to take their property away. At no point in the 55-page complaint does Komsky mention the fact that his organization was never chartered to hold such property. Nevertheless, he's dumped that all on the National Grange to sort out. Taking property you've never owned is a tall order in the Golden State, especially when you've declared under penalty of perjury that it was never yours in the first place. Form 1990s from the National Grange don't claim chapter properties. Ditto for Komsky's new operation, the State Grange. The best that Komsky can do is pose as the old State Grange, and that's never claimed chapter properties either. According to adding to Komsky's difficulty is not being able to keep up with his legal fees. The last Form 990 on file is for calendar year 2015. That puppy shows $24,880 in assets he wasn't even supposed to have, according to the state of California, which is the same venue he's suing in. Needless to say, it's all on the shoulders of the National Grange now. The entity is now It's now suing is a California state-registered charity called the Bennett Valley Guild, something that can hold property. The intent of National was made clear in a November 11, 2015 memo that it was aiming for a, quote, reintegration of Grange assets in California into the national system, but that it could only be done with the voluntary cooperation of others and continuing the work that was ensured the National Grange has had a continuous presence in California, end quote. Translation, we can't legally take your property, but we can sure the hell bully you into giving it to us. National's legal bills have skyrocketed over the past few years over actions like this. In 2014, its legal expenses ran $743,490, over 77% of its operating revenue. Ouch. The only lawsuit it ever won was over the name Grange and its right to say who can use it. But once it lowered the boom on California Granges, they simply dropped the name and stopped paying dues to National. That put National in such a bind they haven't been able to keep up with their paperwork. The last Form 990 on file for them was December of 2014. If they can't file the ones for 2015, 2016, and 2017 by next April 15, their charter is automatically revoked by the IRS, which not only puts their lawsuit in jeopardy, but their property too. Betsy Huber leads that organization today. She's got a Facebook page too, but only 7 photos are on it. None of them show the stars and bars flying anywhere. Nor is anyone revealed posing with an assault rifle in their pajamas. Ditto for both of the Fort Bragg chapters, number 672 or number 572. Huber's got a whopping 943 friends listed there, but Don and Maria Peeler aren't among them, which is no surprise after the way they got hornswoggled. Huber's net assets have dwindled precariously since the lawsuit started. In 2004, they were $1.3 million plus. 10 years later, they'd shrunk to less than $650,000. That's not counting the last 2 years' worth of legal fees. And since Huber has no attorney on staff, she's got to keep on paying for them. Bennett Valley Guild has one. That's Craig Harrison, State Bar number 226094. The Fort Bragg Guild has one too. That's Ron Britt, number 60664. The only bar you'll see for Ed Komsky is the one that serves cold beer, and the only numbers the Peelers know about are the kind that get rolled, meaning that today's Grange organization is top to bottom, stacked with losers. The worst photos of all showed Maria and Don on a deer hunting expedition. I know a thing or two about that. Over the course of my lifetime, I've killed 18 of them. Every single one was taken during deer season. All were bucks with antlers. I went home empty-handed more often than not, but I never took a doe, much less bragged about it. 3 of the photos I downloaded from Don Peeler's Facebook page showed just that. Maria posing with her trophy, a dead doe. That's not just bad sportsmanship, it's the mark of a loser. All of Don Peeler's Facebook postings today carry water for the white supremacist movement. The Confederate flag may be gone, but the sentiment sure isn't. Nobody with African-American heritage catches a break there. Now give me an idea. Doesn't Mr. Peeler's servitude equate to black slavery? Bruce Broderick of the Fort Bragg Guild helped me out there. Broderick told me, I believe he's a tool for Komsky and the other good old boys in the Grange because he is easily manipulated through his alt-right racist belief system. And if that's not a loser, I don't know what is. The story of Maria Peeler is equally complex. The Order of Eastern Star she belongs to has been openly criticized for its blatant racism by the Catholic Church. That position is something that Ms. Peeler appears to have condoned in allowing the Confederate flag to be displayed outside her home. And the last time I checked, the Confederacy lost all property claims in the Civil War 150 years ago, so she certainly doesn't identify with winners. Nonetheless, I wanted to give the Peelers a chance to respond by citing a single victory in their quest for control over Fort Bragg Grange number 672. To that end, I sent them an email invitation to do just that, but at this writing, I've yet to see any chicken dance. Before you start feeling sorry for Don and Maria Peeler, consider this. Ed Komsky published Don's name and email address on the Internet as the primary contact for all Fort Bragg Grange business in March of 2017. Then Maria ran that editorial in the local papers under her own name, with Don's name and phone number for the same purpose. This writer attempted contact with the Peelers 4 separate times through his email address, but they never responded to my invitations for comment. Does that sound like winning to you?